Watch fans, today we're going to be looking at the Explorer 2 with two of the references, and we're also going to do a how-to. Stay tuned. Okay, so today we're going to be looking at one of the watches that, for me, even in the beginning of my Rolex career, I absolutely fell in love with. I didn't understand why it originally didn't get the attention that it deserved, but I am really excited to see that now it definitely does. The Rolex Explorer 2 offers you some features that I feel are not only going to be a very masculine look, but something that's actually functional and still very clean at the same time. That is something that's extremely rare. You don't see where you get all of those things in one watch and still just be able to enjoy it and know that it's going to stand the test of time. So we actually have two references today that we're going to actually look at and compare. These two are actually ones that we get a lot of calls about as well, where people say, well, what do you think about this model versus this model, which are typically the 5 versus the 6 digit when you talk about references themselves. I actually love both watches and feel that they give you a bit of features that you're not going to get from the other. And that excites me because I feel like, hey, if I want to go with something a little bit more classic with the 5-digit reference, I can. But if I want something a little bit more, let's say, beefy and modern, I can do that with the 6-digit reference as well. So with these two watches, you really get two colors, and that's going to be your black, or a lot of people would even say volcano black. That's not the actual name from Rolex, but one of the nicknames, and the polar white. The polar white was definitely one of my favorites. It's also a huge fan favorite. That one does tend to hold a little bit more value, and it's just because it's an extremely rare color to find on a sports watch. Not only is it an extremely rare color to find on a sports watch, but how pure white or paper white that actually is. When we say polar, a lot of people don't realize that that's giving it the nickname or saying that it's zero color to it, or it's actually saying that that's the degree of polar white that it is. And I find that to be really fantastic and fun when you're talking about giving a watch a nickname. So with these two models, you do get a few different features, and those features actually come with progress. So when we talk about progress, we're actually saying what it is that we use to cut and make the watches, or what kind of tools you'll be using to do those things as well. So when we're talking about the 5-digit reference, which is going to be the 16570, this watch does have a lighter weight bracelet. When you actually look at the bracelets themselves, they do get a little bit more modern, and so they get more solid. And that's just, again, because of the technology that is now available. It allows you to get more accurate and more precise cuts, which means that that piece can actually get a little bit more durability. I actually really fell in love with the red hand on this reference as well. This one being the red hand, that fire engine red is not something that Rolex put on all the watches. So I really feel like that was a piece that stood out, and it really gave a nice presence, especially up against that black background. For a lot of people, they felt, well, why did they move to the red hand when it was originally an orange hand for 1971 when that watch was released? Well, for a little while, it could make a little bit more sense that the GMT Master and the GMT Master 2 also had that red hand, and they had the same movement. So when you look at that, I personally would say maybe it was just a little bit more cost efficient. But that's one of the features that we get with the next 6-digit model that we'll talk about and how that was introduced and when it was reintroduced as well. This watch overall, again, I find it really fun because it is that gentleman's watch. I love how rugged the bezel is. I feel like that really gives a nice edge to it. But with the 40 millimeter and the more hollow links, it does allow for even a couple to share that watch, which can be really fun if you start to play games with each other or make little fun to-dos with each other about who's going to be able to wear that Rolex for the day. Now let's take a look at the 6-digit reference. In this case, we actually have the 226570, and we have this one in the polar white. Again, I'm a huge fan of that polar white. If I had to choose between the fire engine red hand and the polar white for the dial, I do not know which one I would choose. In fact, I would love for you to tell us what you think in the comments below. But this 42 millimeter watch definitely gives a lot more presence. You get a lot larger markers actually on the dial as well. So everything that you're doing when you look at this watch, it just stands out. It pops. Very easy to read, very functional. And I do love that it has the 70-hour power reserve. So now when I take this watch off on Friday, if I do pick it back up on Monday, guess what? My watch is still running. Now, when you receive your watch from Swiss Watch Expo, if it is not running, just remember, stay tuned for the last part of the video because it shouldn't be running if it's been more than a day or two for the first 5-digit reference. Or if this model, you'll be getting closer. So we'll actually break down what you want to do to get your watch started, okay? With that Polar White as well, we get the reintroduction on this model of the orange hand. With the orange hand, it does pay reference and homage to the original 1971 release. I really love that feature. I feel like it keeps it true to its DNA. So you really get a lot of the things that you were looking for and what makes the Explorer 2 different than the Rolex GMT Master 2. Now let's look a little bit more and talk a little bit more about the how-to-dos on this watch, which first we'll say how to get your watch started. So when you first receive your Rolex from us, it may or may not be running. If not, don't panic. That is actually a good sign. That just means that your watch is ready for you to give it the energy that it needs to succeed. Remember, your watch cannot run without you. So we're going to break down how to do those things in a few simple steps that are going to be quick and easy, and they do work on both reference models. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to look at the crown. The crown is actually going to be the knob that's to the side of the watch itself. That is going to be your controller. That's what you use to control the watch itself. Remember, always keep that crown screwed down. As long as the crown is screwed down, no dust, dirt, or water can get inside of the watch. That is what makes it virtually swim-proof, is that crown being screwed down. Now remember, watches are made for cold water events. So yes, if you're at the beach, it's going to be fun. Or if you're in the swimming pool, it is good. You can just rinse it off with a mild soap afterwards and everything is fine. But when you talk about being in more warmer or more humid areas, no hot tubs, no steam rooms, no showers, no saunas. Remember, even leaving it in the bathroom, if you do take hotter showers, it can create some moisture inside of a watch. With Rolex, it's a little less likely, but with some of the other brands, even just having that simple humidity of the heat outside or too much heat outside and that pool, they can cause a little bit of moisture. So the first thing we're going to do is break all of our rules. We're going to unscrew the crown. Once we unscrew the crown, you'll feel it kind of spring out or pop out on your finger. That's just letting you know, or it's reacting to the fact that now your crown is open. So what we're going to do first, when we first unlock that crown, we're going to actually turn clockwise, which is away from you, and we're going to turn that about 60 times. Yes, about 60 times. Now, I know in your manuals, it may even say 20 times or 20 full turns is what's going to be good to get the watch started. However, the human hand does not go in a full circle. So we want to give it a little bit more than that. Does Rolex know and do the Swiss know that it does need to be changed in writing of how to do that? Yes. Are they going to change it? No. Has it been brought out by multiple reps that should happen? Yes. And again, no, it will not change. But just keep in mind that your hand does a half rotation. So whatever is there, you want to double that. And even if you look at the older manual watches, it took about 40 to 60 turns before a manual watch would actually start up and continue to run in a full motion, or until it stopped and told you that it was full. So why not do the same thing when it comes to your modern day Rolex? Just because remember, the more power you have, the more accurate it is. But if it's underwound or doesn't have enough energy, it won't run accurately. So just give it what it needs to be in the beginning. The next stage, we're going to click to position 1, which is actually where we use our fingertips or fingernails, and we're going to pull out just a little bit. You'll feel that click, and you'll feel where you're able to control independently the hour hand. The next position is actually going to be position 2. Position 2 is going to allow us to move the complete watch, in which when we originally set this watch, we want to set everything to 0. This is what we call zeroing out. That means that all the hands will go to 12. As you can see, even on this particular one, when I did it, the date did change. That's the first thing that I want you to look and listen for. Set your watch to the day before and pay attention. When the watch actually hits midnight or 12, the date will change. If you go past 12 and the date does not change, that means that you're at 12 in the afternoon. When you're getting ready to set this watch, the first thing that you definitely want to do is you want to go ahead and set to your local time while in position 2. That's going to be very key because that controls all the hands. Remember, we can control our hour hand, which is the classic hand that we grew up watching, independently. So that's something that we can do afterwards. So we'll go ahead and set everything to our local time. And remember, the orange hand, which is your home time, that actually only goes around once every 24 hours. So it's going to read in what we call Greenwich Mean Time, or what a lot of us would say is military time, okay? So when we set it, we'll set everything there. And once we have that portion set, now that hand is telling us exactly what the true hour is, but because they're at 0, they'll both be telling the same time. So now if I need to, I'll go back to position 1, and I can independently change whatever my local time is. Again, home time always being where I am, but this watch was actually made for spelunking. So as you go deeper or actually change in time, those things you can control on your watch as well by just moving independently that hand. And as you can see, the second hand continues to go. So it is a non-hacking. It continues to run. So it does contain more consistency and more accuracy as you're doing it. We hope that you actually enjoyed this video and the how-to. Remember that it's not just for this reference, but when we're looking at the 5-digit reference as well, all of the same features do apply. So all of those same things and features that we get when we're talking about even the stages, when it comes to unscrewing the crown, winding the watch, actually going to the next position, being able to control the independent hour hand and control all the hands in the last position, will be just the same for those two references. Once you're finished, push the crown, and then we're going to take our pointer finger and thumb, push against the case with a little pressure on it, and we're going to completely screw down until that is actually closed off. Remember, once it's closed off again, now no dirt, dust, or water can get inside of the watch. So it's going to do what it's supposed to do, and I can wear my watch and enjoy it. And that's really what I'm purchasing it for. Now, with this one, again, the 70-hour power reserve will be on the 6-digit. That's not going to be the case when you talk about the 5-digit. Again, there are going to be different rules for each watch, but this is the one that does have the fire engine red hand. It does have the lighter bracelet as well. It is a shorter power reserve, but this one is still very enjoyable as well. We hope that you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, give us a call here at Swiss Watch Expo or tell us what you think in the comments below.